Hi, I'm Victoria Ostrander, and today I'll be discussing language acquisition of different sign languages in children. The main concept for my presentation is an ongoing investigation into language acquisition in reference to sign language in children in many different countries. Different forms of sign language are being developed by children as their first language in the presentation. Main sign languages touch upon American Sign, which is ASL, British Sign Language, BSL, German, DGS, Nicaraguan Sign Language, ISN. Then looking at them as a whole to compare them to one another. Okay, American Sign Language as ASL. There is 250,000 users in the United States, and there is 271,550 users in all the countries around the world. It's the most highly used American Sign Language. Different dialects may include Black American Sign Language and Tactile American Sign Language. There is lexical variations across the United States and Canada for the grammatical structure. Children who are born or become deaf mainly use American Sign Language for their communication, or they read lips. ASL is not restricted to just children who are deaf. Some parents have children learn ASL before learning English in order to communicate before they are able to speak. Hundreds of deaf schools are in the country, so it's easy for a deaf child to acquire sign. Once a child develops ASL, they are put into a deaf hearing school a deaf or a hearing school in order to learn English to be able to write and read. ASL has its own set of grammar rules, and you need to know English grammar in order to be a part of the American Society for Reading and Writing. British Sign Language. There's 250,000 users as of 2013. ASL and BSL, which is American Sign Language, and British Sign Language, extremely similar? No, they're not. They're completely different. Dialects for British Sign Language include Scottish and Welsh sign languages. Signs vary along a form of signed English. The grammar structure mainly relies on the structure of spoken English rather than having grammar rules. Structure and lexical relates to Australian Sign Language, ASF, and New Zealand Sign Language, NZSL. And for finger spelling, they do two-handed finger spelling. We do one-handed finger spelling in America. Doctors will first try to fit the child for a hearing aid or a cochlear, but if that does not work, they will teach the child BSL in order to be able to communicate with them. BSL is highly used and taught to young children, just as America does, in order to communicate with the child before they are able to speak. German Sign Language, also known as DGS, also known as, excuse my language, Deutschgardensprach. I can't highly pronounce that. There is 80,000 users as of 2014. DGS has its own set of grammar rules. The following grammar rules, they follow the grammar rules of spoken language in that country, which would be German. East and West Germany have similar dialects. North and South Germany have different dialects. Similar to French Sign Language, known as LSF, especially with their finger spelling, which is one-handed signing, just like America. There is 80 different deaf schools in Germany. Signing is highly used for children, or it is an option. Germany also has the same views on sign language as America and Britain. In an article by Tobias Haag, he discusses the need for a sign language to test and examine development of sign language for children. He urges the need for standardized testing for sign language. The conclusion includes them using BSL and adapting into it using DGS. A quote by him is, "For sign language test adaptation, knowing when a certain structure emerges or is mastered in sign language production provides a first approach to including the structure in items and a comprehension test. Based on the notion for the comprehension precedes production, timing of the comprehension is not clear, but would be important to know to determine which linguistic structure should be included in a comprehension test for a specific age group. This test came back inconclusive, and there needs to be more tests ran in order to come up with a sign language standardized test, but they are very close with the research." Nicaraguan Sign Language, NSL. We did cover this in class. It's new, but a smaller language. Not many people have it. Use it. There's only 3,000 users. Users mainly reside in Mongolia, Dialects, there are none because it's a new language. It's unrelated to El Salvadorian, Costa Rican, or any other sign language. The main users of NSL are hearing children, deaf children, children in general, young adults, and some Spanish speakers because the main language in Nicaragua is Spanish. This language is taught in primary and secondary schools for children. There's been no deaf community until the late 1970s. NSL emerged among deaf children to focus on a deaf education, and so the country could establish deaf schools in the area. This country highly focuses on sign language as a way to communicate. Having this language in place gives the community a chance to communicate with one another without there being a disconnection due to different dialects and deaf individuals in the community. Home sign, effective way of communication for children. Home sign, personally created signs made by individuals who live together or who are related. People create their own signs for different meanings. Only family and friends can understand these signs if they're taught by a person who invented them. NSL is the language that most commonly uses home signs. There was a research project conducted on home sign versus natural sign by researchers Russell Ritchie, Charles Yang, and Marie Coppola at the University of Connecticut. They first show lexical conventionalization in two different classes of sign systems in the country. They use proto-linguistic home signs created by deaf individuals and natural language formed by the rich deaf community. We went over this topic in class this semester. This study contributes to children learning sign in this country because adults and children were used to conduct this study to see if home signs are effective in developing sign. This study concluded that natural language conventionalizes faster than home sign when learning sign language in this area. Essentially, children should learn the original sign language rather than creating and using home signs because it is faster to use sign itself rather than creating your own home signs that people may not know. Language acquisition and sign language as a whole. Language acquisition of sign language is all dependent on the country and an individual is looking into. Mayberry's first language acquisition after childhood differs from second language acquisition, mainly focuses on American Sign Language. I worked on this project in the beginning of the semester. Researcher Rachel Mayberry looks into first language acquisition versus second language acquisition in children, which is the main basis of this presentation. This piece goes on to discuss the idea that if a child learns ASL before learning spoken English, they can communicate sooner with others. A parent would be able to know how the baby was feeling or what they needed instead of just having to guess and the baby continuously cry for hours. Also, memory would begin to work sooner if taught ASL before speaking because it starts working their brain cells faster. Experiment conducted on phonological lexicons to test receptive skills and accuracy. They did semantic substitution and phonological substitution. There was a quote by Mayberry. It says, "The results of these two studies demonstrate that as a performance on sign language, processing text improves, comprehension and memory for meaning improves in tandem. These results mean that increasing in performance accurately reflect deeper and more complete processing of linguistic structure. Inaccurate performance reflects shallow processing, being intermediately stuck at the surface phonological level of language structure." This test alone shows receptiveness in a child learning American Sign Language and how learning this language can be beneficial to a child. To conclude my presentation, deaf children have various ways of learning sign language depending on the multiple considerations of their area, where they live, who they're related to, how their family feels about sign language, and so forth, and how far along they are in their deafness. Some of these considerations include the countries that they live in, as I said before. As I discussed earlier, America, Britain, and Germany have an extensive amount of signers in their countries, but Nicaragua would be the country that depends on sign language the most, since their country is so small and there's so many different languages spoken in that area. They highly depend on NSL in order to have everyone able to communicate with each other in the communities. Children should learn sign language no matter if they are deaf or hearing. Being able to acquire a language and being able to communicate with their family before being able to speak will enhance the emotional connection and it will help better their memory. Learning a new language gives them a chance to broaden their horizons and, as I said, expands their memory. And it's just very useful, and I believe that everyone should learn American Sign Language or at least some type of sign language depending on which area of the world that you do live in. And that's it.